Yeah, thank you, Victor. Great pleasure to be up here on stage. I will not take 10 years, but I got 5 minutes to introduce Sweden. My great pleasure. I should say, we proud ourselves in Sweden of having very good economic growth in the last 10 years, but I think we pale in comparison with the BODW. We're extremely impressed by what you have achieved during these 10 years. So we're very proud and very honored to be invited to be the partner country for 2014. As you could see in the first pictures, we actually come from the forest very far up north. We have a lot of snow. We're a little bit different from Hong Kong, but not that different, I think. We will be here to showcase, and we will be here to discuss and make business out of design. But what is then Swedish design? I should say to me, and this is my personal view, it is the following. We come from a country which is very far up in the north. It was actually very poor, one of the poorest countries in Europe, as late as 160 years ago. And in search of better economic opportunities, almost a third of our population actually left Sweden and went to North America at that time. But at the same time, industrialization came a little bit later to Sweden than other countries in Europe and kicked off in the late 19th century, very much growing upon huge resources in forestry and iron ore up in northern Sweden. Sweden is a vast country, it's almost as big as France. We don't have fully as many people as in France, maybe a fifth of their population. So a big problem was that all of the resources were up in the north and all of the people, or most of the people, were down in the south. Most of the knowledge was down in the south and most of the harbors were down in the south. So Swedes specialized very much in sort of making a business out of this and learned how to overcome distance. So we became very good at transporting goods, transporting electricity, power, and to communicate over long distances. Stockholm was actually, I think, the first city in the world that opened up for competition in telecommunications 120 years ago, if I'm correctly informed. So in the following decades, this environment posed a lot of challenges, and innovation and design of products, and I would say already then services, became the backbone of Swedish industry. And through continuous industrial innovation, these companies that were then formed have stayed very strong up until this day. I think the most famous innovator from that time is Alfred Nobel, who was the founder. He donated all his fortune to the Nobel Foundation, and thus was the founder of the Nobel Prizes. But even companies that you see in Hong Kong today, like Ericsson, Volvo, Scania, ABB, Atlas Copco, Sandvik, SCA, which are very big in the consumer segment here, Stora Enso, were formed back then in the early 20th century. And in the early 20th century, democratization also took hold in Sweden. And over time we strived, and I think we became a very egalitarian society. And this egalitarian trait formed our design society and our design traditions, and it also formed some of our really major design companies. So I think that a very strong characteristic in much of Swedish design is that this design, just as society, should somehow be for all. It should be available to all and accessible to all. And this has also formed our design process, which is very much about the involvement of all. I think this could be one specific trait. I would say that companies like IKEA, H&M, and to some extent also Tetra Pak and Electrolux came out of this outlook on design and distribution. This has continued into the digital age today and into the networked society. And today we have companies such as Skype and Spotify, and they have made digital communications and digitally distributed music accessible to huge numbers of people all around the world. And they went truly global from the first minute. I think that this perspective and every person's right to a good living environment has also influenced our architecture and our strong focus on the environment and environmental technologies. So when we work with Sweden abroad, so to say, we believe that sustainability, innovation and creativity should be integrated into all what we do. To continue to be successful in the global economy, Sweden needs to constantly reinvent itself and find new ways to grow. We invest a lot in research and development, and we strive to form an environment that is conducive to entrepreneurs and startup companies. We're very much free traders. I think maybe the only economy in the world which is even more free trading is Hong Kong. We have that in our DNA, that we want to be free traders, we want to be global, and we want our companies to go global early on. And one result of this strive to have an entrepreneurial society and to focus on R&D is that creative industries are growing in Sweden continuously. And we think that they can also strengthen the image of Sweden and spark an interest in the country as such. So today we think, and we hope that we can showcase some of this next year, that we have a great deal to offer in areas such as design, fashion, gastronomy, film, games, music, literature, and market communication. We have an interesting setup of microbrands today, some of whom will come to Hong Kong already in January, actually, for the Hong Kong Fashion Week. And did you know that out of 12 songs that reached the #1 spot on the US Billboard list in 2012, last year, 4 were actually co-written or produced or co-produced by Swedes. And if your kids, or perhaps even worse, you yourself spend too much time playing Candy Crush Saga or Minecraft, please be aware they are actually games that were designed and developed in Sweden. I know, I have seen you in the MTR, so I know that especially Candy Crush Saga, I think, takes up a lot of time here in Hong Kong. Well, we feel we have to be at the forefront, and this is why we are taking this initiative and try to bring and support our small and medium-sized companies to come to Hong Kong, to Greater China, and to other parts of Asia. The growing international interest in Swedish creative industries offers good prospects for the future, but we think it can be tricky for small and medium-sized companies to make an impact and reach out here. So to us, to have venues provided for designers, to have the ability to display design, and to have the ability to do matchmaking meetings, and to also have discussions and dialogues about design, is enormously important. And we think that Business of Design Week is a perfect example of where we can sort of help ourselves to do this together with our Hong Kong partners. We hope that the BODW will be helpful for Swedish designers who are eager to expand here in Asia. And by putting Swedish design in focus, we also hope to spark an interest in Sweden as such, travel to Sweden and tourism to Sweden. So, then the big question, what will we focus on at BODW 2014? Well, to be honest, and I think it's important to be honest always, we are nowhere near a finished program yet. But I can imagine that we will look at sectors such as architecture and smart green urban solutions, industrial and product design, where I think we have a very strong heritage and a very forceful industry, digital design, as I mentioned, interior design, and fashion and smart textiles. So I'm looking very much forward to 2014. Now, if we stop for one moment and only look forward a couple of minutes, I know that we will very soon hear about an extremely interesting project far up in the very north of Sweden. I think this is a good example of how different Sweden might be from Hong Kong, but at the same time how similar some of the issues we face when it comes to design. In this case, architecture and city planning might actually be still the same. And I think that this will also once again showcase the importance of iron ore for Sweden. So, thank you very much. We are looking enormously much forward to working with you in 2014 and to seeing you all back here in 2014. Thanks.